guys, this is Dr. Trey Steger Smith, and today's topic, just really quick, not going to be here before you long. Once again, thank you for all the cards and comments about my great aunt. Once again, thank you. Struggle today can mean blessings tomorrow. I came up with this topic because it was really just key and paramount to just life in general. I was studying, back through some old notes, and I was going through an exam phase, and I don't remember exactly what time frame was. It probably the early 2000s, and I was struggling with a topic. I think it was effective communications. Actually, believe it or not, effective communication. There's a class on that. So if you haven't taken it, it's good for any degree that you're going for at the lower level or the. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. So it was really paramount for me. I was struggling through this class because I'm thinking effective communication, that ain't nothing but speech. So why do I have to take a class in it? So I struggled with the concepts that were being taught to me. And so I had to do research. I had to look things up, and I actually went to the library. Yes, libraries still do exist. We all know they do. And this was before the internet explosion, if you will. And I looked up, different articles, and at that time you could really quote hard copy magazines, might have you. And I began to get literature from different folks who had a broad knowledge base on the subject. So I stayed in the library until they had to kick me out. And even till this day, you still got to kick me out of a library. But nevertheless, I didn't think that some 14, 15 years later, I would refer to some of my notes, some of my papers to help me write some blogs today. And of course, if you use anyone else's work, make sure you cite them, or that is plagiarism. Hello, and I'm not putting anyone on blast there, but if you use anyone's speeches, make sure you give them credit. Ha ha ha, not being funny there, but make sure you give them credit. So back then, I struggled so much with that paper. And oh, by the way, I didn't get an A on it. I got a B+ on it. I got a B+ for the struggle and the hustle, but I think I got also a B on it, and I have to look at it. Next time when I come online, hopefully I'll have that so that I can show you some of the marks. The red marks were for some of the punctuation and grammar. Oh yes, punctuation and grammar is still paramount in our writing skills, even though we use computer for everything. I still wrote longhand and put it into, at that time, it was actually the late 90s. I was still using Word Perfect, and that particular paper, some 15, almost 20 years later, it helped me with a blog that I am writing right now. But let me put more of, and I say this because it's also back to school time for students, college students, elementary school students, K through 12. And people all between. So I thank you so much for going back, and I'm continuing to keep you in my thoughts for your safety, and that your brain stay open to absorb the knowledge. And for those of you who are teaching at all academic levels, that you continue to give for our future lawyers, doctors, and people of all professions. But let me put this in a more practical sense outside of a classroom. For those of us who are business owners, we may be struggling now to get funding, financing, to get customers, clients, patients, however you categorize or classify those whom you serve. It is important that the struggle that you go through now, make sure you like this message, make sure you love this message, share this message, because this can help someone else out, okay? It's sometimes hard to build a relationship. There are some studies that say, forgive me for scratching here, there are some studies that say it takes 9 months to secure a contract, okay? All right, and it can only take 15 seconds to destroy it as well, and that's a relationship. And you can look online and on many sites that really speak hard on the subject, but it takes time to build a relationship. So make sure when you start to build that relationship, make sure you foster it, make sure you hug it, make sure you love it. Just like when I get on here, make sure you thumb up this message, make sure you love it, make sure you allow it. Okay, when I say that, I'm trying to build a relationship with you. I know it's a little corny, a little quirky, but there's a method to my madness here. Okay, so back to, the struggle in the beginning is quite hard. It's hard. They say the struggle is real and the hustle is hard. Yeah, that's a little cliche and it's a little corny. But there's a lot of truth in that. And back to the business owner, we're constantly out looking for clients, customers, depends on what field you're in, patience, if you will, so that we can deliver that service. But once you get that customer, client, patient, you have to continue to provide that same level of service. Because remember this, you ain't the only game out there. Okay? You're not the only game out there. You may be excellent in your expertise. You may be excellent in your field, but you're not the only game out there. So you have to continue to, and I'm going to quote this again, love and like and wow in a positive sense. And you have to continue to engage them. And I'm not just talking about necessarily social media engagement, but when you do face-to-face service, you do have brick and mortar online as well. You have to continue to do that. And believe you me, the payoff later on will bless you bountifully. Okay? Let me switch that. I've talked about the academic realm. I've talked about the business end realm. Let me talk about personal relationships before I leave you today. Okay, personal relationships. I have relationships with many people, many families. A lot of them not so good. Just going to be honest with you. For a myriad of reasons. Sometimes for me, it's distance. I have family members all over the world. Some of them I met just last week. Okay, some of them have the same last name as I do. No comment. Okay, thank you for the like, thank you for the love. And, getting to know people is quite difficult. For me, I'll talk to a signpost. Some people don't like that. That's okay. However, struggling to get to know people is not second nature to people. But once you prove that you're a value or an asset to them, later on, they'll see a blessing. So there was an individual last week when I was in Los Angeles. When I was in Los Angeles at my aunt's homegoing, there was an individual who had worked with my family out that way for decades and who remembered me as a small child and who had been following some of my work and how I help them, how I help folks and what I do and so on and so forth. And who learned about my struggle and growing up in the system and things of that nature, and we connected. And so now, back then, knowing about the struggle, and now reconnecting and learning about the blessing. So that is good. That is good. So he and I are going to connect, reconnect, and do some work. Transcoastal. LA and BC serves. Think about your struggles now. Think of those later. Be it business, be it academic, or be it personal, or be it all three intertwined. Now, if you have all three intertwined, this is a whole different cast. We'll talk about this later. Learn how to separate the three, because sometimes when they get all three mixed, there's problems with that, and you have to learn how to delineate all three of them, okay? Because things can get a little messy and lines can get blurred, and that creates a whole nother issue. But remember, if you got struggle, there can be blessing. Oh, no, there not can be. There will be blessings on the other side. So I just wanted to come to you today just to offer you that little bit of a tidbit. I wanted to get you into my little bit of my personal and how, and believe me, I am still struggling with some things. I'm still struggling with my recent shift from one place to another place physically. I'm still struggling with some physical things that I'm going through. I'm still struggling, but I know that there is a blessing on the other side. Okay, or and for those of you who said I'm using the word blessing, and it may offend some of you because they say that's a spiritual thing, and that's okay with me. Or if it's not, if you don't want to use the word blessing, there is a good outcome. Let me use a business term, a good outcome on the other side, or a good outcome in the future. Okay, whether it's in the area of revenues, a positive relationship, or better grades, whatever it is that you're seeking. Once again, my name is T.E. Steger-Smith. I'm better known as Dr. Trey. Continue to like this message, love this message, wow this message. I'm signing off for right now. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Goodbye now.